Some debts you can never repay, and some lessons come way too late. Daniel Carter was 18 when he left. His father, Robert, had just been diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's disease. The tremors had started months before, but Robert kept brushing them off. Said he was just tired, just stressed. By the time he finally saw a doctor, the disease had already taken hold. Daniel remembers the day his father told him. They were sitting in the kitchen of their small house. Robert's hands were shaking as he held his coffee cup. "Son, I need to tell you something. I'm sick. It's Parkinson's. The doctors say it's going to get worse." Daniel didn't know what to say. He was 18. He had plans, college, freedom, a life beyond this small town and this small house. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means I'm going to need help. A lot of help. The tremors will get worse. Eventually, I won't be able to work. Won't be able to take care of myself." Robert looked at his son with tired eyes. "I know this isn't fair to you, but you're all I have." Before we continue with Daniel's story, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. It really helps us keep bringing you content that matters. Now let's dive right in. Daniel felt his future slipping away, all his plans, all his dreams. He had a scholarship to a university 3 states away. He was supposed to leave in 2 months. And now his father was telling him he needed to stay, needed to become a caregiver. At 18 years old. "Dad, I can't," Daniel said. "I have school. I have my whole life ahead of me. You can't ask me to give that up." Robert nodded slowly. "I'm not asking you to give it up. I'm just asking you to delay it. Maybe take some online classes. Work part-time. Help me until we figure something out." But Daniel didn't want to delay anything. He didn't want to figure anything out. He wanted out of this town, out of this responsibility, out of this life that suddenly felt like a trap. 2 weeks later, Daniel left. He didn't tell his father he was going. He just packed a bag in the middle of the night and drove away. Left a note on the kitchen table that said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this. I have to live my own life." Robert found the note in the morning, read it with shaking hands, and he didn't cry. He just folded the note carefully and put it in his pocket. He knew he'd lost his son, not to distance, not to time, but to fear, to selfishness, to youth that couldn't understand sacrifice yet. The years that followed were hard for Robert. The Parkinson's got worse, just like the doctors said it would. The tremors spread from his hands to his whole body. He had to quit his job at the factory. Had to sell the car because he couldn't drive safely anymore. Had to rely on neighbors and social services for help. He lived alone in that small house. Some days he couldn't get out of bed. Some days he couldn't feed himself. Some days he fell and had to lie on the floor for hours until someone came to check on him. But he never called Daniel, never reached out. He figured if his son wanted to know how he was doing, he'd call. He never did. Daniel, meanwhile, was living his dream life. He went to college, got his degree in business, landed a job at a tech startup in California, made good money, bought a nice apartment, dated beautiful women, had friends, had a career, had everything he wanted. He thought about his father sometimes, usually late at night when he couldn't sleep, wondered if he was okay, wondered if he was still alive. But he never called, never visited, told himself that his father probably hated him anyway, that it was too late to fix things, that some bridges once burned stay burned. 15 years passed like that. Daniel climbed the corporate ladder, became a manager, then a director, made more money than his father had made in his entire life. But something was always missing, some hole he couldn't fill no matter how much success he achieved. Then one Tuesday morning, Daniel's world fell apart. He got called into his boss's office. The company was downsizing. He was being let go. After 15 years of dedicated service, he was out. Just like that. The severance package was decent, but not enough. Daniel had been living beyond his means for years. Expensive apartment, expensive car, expensive lifestyle. Within 6 months, his savings were gone. He couldn't find another job. The market was flooded with people just like him, experienced, qualified, desperate. He lost his apartment, lost his car, lost everything. ended up sleeping on a friend's couch, then another friend's couch, then ran out of friends willing to help, found himself in a homeless shelter, wondering how his life had gone so wrong so fast. One night, lying in a shelter bed surrounded by strangers, Daniel thought about his father, wondered if he was still alive, still in that small house. And for the first time in 15 years, he felt ashamed, not because he was homeless, but because he'd abandoned the one person who'd actually loved him. He borrowed a phone and searched for his father's name online, found an obituary from 3 years ago. Robert Carter, age 62, died alone in his home. Services were held at a small funeral home, buried in the town cemetery. Daniel felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. His father was dead, had been dead for 3 years, and Daniel hadn't even known, hadn't been there, hadn't said goodbye, hadn't said sorry. He read the obituary over and over. It was short, just a few lines about where Robert was born, where he worked, when he died. At the end it said, survived by his son, Daniel. But that was a lie. Daniel hadn't survived him. He'd abandoned him. The guilt ate at Daniel. Every day, every night. He'd thrown away everything for success, for freedom, for a life that meant nothing now. And he'd lost the one person who actually mattered. But then, Daniel found something else online. A forum post from 2 years ago. Someone asking if anyone knew Robert Carter from the small town. Someone else responding that they'd been Robert's neighbor, that Robert had left something in his will, a trust fund, for Daniel, if he ever came back. Daniel couldn't believe it. His father had left him money, after everything, after being abandoned, after dying alone. He'd still thought about his son, still provided for him. Daniel took a bus back to his hometown. It took 2 days. He arrived dirty and exhausted, went to the lawyer's office that had been mentioned in the forum post. The lawyer was an old man who remembered Robert. Your father was a good man, the lawyer said. He talked about you sometimes, always hoped you'd come back. Even at the end, when he was really sick, he'd ask if there were any messages from you. Daniel felt tears running down his face. How much did he leave me? The lawyer looked at him with something like pity. He left you the house and about $15,000. It was everything he had. He'd been saving it for years, living on almost nothing so he could leave you something. Daniel expected to feel relief, gratitude, but all he felt was disgust with himself. His father had spent his last years alone, sick, suffering, saving money for a son who'd abandoned him, a son who didn't deserve it. There's something else, the lawyer said. He handed Daniel an envelope. Your father left this for you, asked me to give it to you if you ever came back. Daniel opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, in his father's handwriting, shaky from the Parkinson's but still readable. Daniel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know I never stopped loving you. I understood why you left. You were young. You had dreams. I didn't want to be the thing that held you back. I hope you lived a good life. I hope you found happiness. I hope you don't blame yourself for leaving. I forgave you a long time ago. The house is yours. The money is yours. Use it to build something good. Love. Dad. Daniel broke down completely, sobbed right there in the lawyer's office, because his father had forgiven him, had understood, had loved him even after being abandoned, and Daniel had never given him the chance to know that the forgiveness went both ways, that Daniel was sorry, that Daniel loved him too. He went to the cemetery, found his father's grave, a simple headstone with just a name and dates. Daniel knelt in front of it and talked, told his father everything, about the job, the homelessness, the failure, the regret, the love that had always been there but never spoken. I'm so sorry, Dad, Daniel whispered. I was a coward. I was selfish. I threw away the only thing that mattered, and I can never make it right. Daniel moved into his father's house. It was exactly as he remembered it. Small, old, filled with memories. He found his father's things everywhere. Medical equipment, pill bottles, a walker, evidence of a man who'd struggled alone for years. He found photo albums, pictures of Daniel as a kid, as a teenager, at his high school graduation. Robert had kept everything, had treasured every memory even after being abandoned. Daniel used the $15,000 carefully, got a job at a local hardware store. Nothing fancy, minimum wage, but honest work. He lived simply, spent his evenings going through his father's things, learning about the man he'd abandoned. He found journals. His father had kept journals through the years. Daniel read them all, read about the progression of the disease, the pain, the loneliness, but also the hope. Robert had written about Daniel often, wondered what he was doing, hoped he was happy, never blamed him. One entry from near the end struck Daniel hard. Fell again today. Couldn't get up for 3 hours. Mrs. Patterson found me. I'm becoming a burden to everyone, but I keep going because maybe someday Daniel will come back. Maybe someday I'll get to see my son again. Tell him I love him, that I'm proud of him. That's all I want, just to see him one more time. Daniel wept reading those words. His father had died wanting just one thing, to see his son. And Daniel had been too selfish, too proud, too afraid to give him that. He started volunteering at a local nursing home, spending time with elderly people who had no family, who were alone like his father had been. He couldn't make up for abandoning his dad, but maybe he could keep other people from dying alone. One of the residents, an old man named Frank, reminded Daniel of his father. Same sense of humor, same kindness. Frank had Parkinson's too. His hands shook just like Robert's had. Frank had a son who never visited, never called. Daniel saw himself in that absent son, saw the same selfishness, the same cowardice. One day Daniel asked Frank, "Do you hate your son for not being here?" Frank thought about it. "No, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, but I don't hate him. He's living his life. Maybe that's enough." "It's not enough," Daniel said quietly. "Trust me. I know." Frank looked at him curiously. Daniel told him everything, about abandoning his father, about the 15 years of silence, about coming back too late, about the letter, the forgiveness he didn't deserve. Frank listened quietly. When Daniel finished, he said, "Your father gave you a gift. He gave you forgiveness. Don't waste it by hating yourself forever. Use it. Be better. Help others. That's how you honor him." Those words changed something in Daniel. He realized his father didn't want him to suffer, didn't want him to spend his life drowning in guilt. His father had wanted him to be happy, to build something good. So Daniel did. He started a foundation, small at first, just helping elderly people in his town who didn't have family, giving them rides to doctor appointments, bringing them groceries, sitting with them so they weren't alone. The foundation grew. Other people joined. People who'd also lost parents, people who understood regret. Together, they made sure no elderly person in their town had to die alone, had to suffer without help. Daniel named it the Robert Carter Foundation, put his father's picture on all the materials, told his father's story, his own story, the story of abandonment and regret and second chances that came too late. He spoke at schools, told teenagers about the cost of selfishness, about how success means nothing if you lose the people who love you, about how you can't get time back, can't undo absence, can't resurrect the dead to say sorry. Some kids listened, some didn't. But the ones who did, the ones who went home and called their parents or visited their grandparents or helped their struggling families, those made it worth it. Years passed. Daniel never got rich, never climbed any corporate ladders, never achieved the success he'd once thought mattered. But he slept well at night, because he was doing something that mattered, something his father would have been proud of. He never married, never had kids. The house stayed as it was, a shrine to a man who'd deserved better, who'd loved unconditionally, who'd forgiven the unforgivable. On the anniversary of his father's death, Daniel always visited the grave, brought flowers, sat and talked, told his father about the foundation, about the people they'd helped, about the lives they'd changed. "I hope I'm making you proud, Dad," he'd say. "I know I can't make up for leaving, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying." 1 year on that anniversary, Daniel found something at the grave. Someone had left a note. It said, "Thank you for the Robert Carter Foundation. You helped my grandmother when she had no one. You gave her dignity in her last days. Your father raised a good man." Daniel cried reading that. Because maybe it was true. Maybe after everything, after all the mistakes and regrets and failures, he'd finally become the man his father had hoped he'd be. Not through success, not through money, not through achievement, but through service, through sacrifice, through learning far too late what actually matters. Some debts you can never repay. Daniel knew that. He'd never be able to give his father those 15 years back, never be able to sit with him in his final days, never be able to say the words that needed to be said. But he could make sure other people didn't make the same mistake, could make sure other parents didn't die alone, could turn his greatest failure into something that helped others. His father had given him that chance with forgiveness, and Daniel was determined not to waste it. Now go call someone you love before it's too late.